Oh, gross. Do not ever pressure wash the inside of your car. You will have to replace all the insulation, sound deadening, carpet. Gross. Flooded cars, salvage cars, take the whole thing apart, get everything out of there. So this episode is about removing the interior of the FJ Cruiser and all the goodies I found, including razor blades, lip balm, batteries of all kinds, batteries stuck to the metal and corroded, coupon passes, keychains, pencils, pens. Did I say toothpicks? All there. There's the $500 part just sitting there, and all these. They're actually not too bad to take out. Very few bolts and mostly just snaps, which I probably broke a quarter of, 25%. Gross. All wet and soaked. This would never dry out if I left it in the car. No amount of desiccant would get it either. And look in here. Puddles. Puddles. The guy I bought this from said he conveniently pressure washed the inside and the outside before I got it. That's okay. Taking this thing top to bottom. Broken engine. It's almost like a salvage build. Like I got it salvaged, but it has a clean title, thankfully. So, hopefully I can actually add in some awesome sound deadening after I clear out all this felt, cotton, recycled stuff, whatever it is Toyota used. It's almost like I could see little pieces of cotton shirts, like flannel shirts in there. Those little red pieces. So I tried all different methods to clean this out. Here's the go crazy wire brush method, which actually worked pretty good to get the big thick stuff out that you couldn't just pick off in a big clump with your hand. So that worked pretty well. Look at that. And it got it down to kind of the fine fibers that have adhesive to the butyl mat, I think it's called, the sound deadening. That thing is actually made of like tar, like from your roof. So that gray layer, so if you try to peel it up, it's like you're peeling up asphalt shingles. And that bead along the edge is it kind of all melted and gross, and that stuff is sticky. Got some on my shoulder right now, trying to get off. Don't know how I got there. I must have rubbed my shoulder after doing this. So this was really gross, dusty, and bad for everyone involved. I wore a dust mask, of course, fibers flying. But then I eventually resorted to Goo Gone, Simple Green, whatever I could do. Now this up here, this whole firewall insulation and carpet goes way up in there. So I thought, oh, maybe I'll take this off. Unscrew it right there, unscrew it right there. This goes from left to right side, all one piece, all wrapped around cables and everywhere, up into there behind the dashboard. I was not going to remove the whole dash just for that, so forget that. Just try it out. This stuff came off okay on some of the plastics. Look at that, this one's easy. Peel it right off, get most of it. A little bit left, I scrub that off later. But now we're on to pressure washing. And I don't have one of those really powerful gas pressure washers, okay? This is just a Harbor Freight, the blue one. Who knows how good it is or how hard it sprays, but I know it doesn't spray super hard because it doesn't, take layers off my concrete or anything. But after doing this pressure wash and all those little holes, now I do have a bunch of funny squiggles like cave paintings all over my driveway, unfortunately, so I'll have to bleach those out or figure out how to clean that off. And it did okay getting this thing clean on the top side. The top side's, whatever. I'll polish it up a little, put it back in the car after, and no one's really going to notice with the floor mats down. It's actually the underside, which was the biggest challenge of all, and I had to try several different methods to get all that adhesive and cotton off. So this mat here, you'd be surprised, it's like a $465 part if you get it like at one of these wholesale Toyota places, a dealer that would give you a good price. If you get it retail from your local dealer, gosh, I don't know, it would probably be $1,000. But yeah, I assume the same for the back would be very expensive, a couple hundred at least. So I'm not going to replace it. That would be the easy thing, just grab a replacement. Too expensive. Or maybe if I had a junkyard find, but there's no FJs in the junkyard around Jacksonville. I've checked them all. Well, I checked quite a few. It's a rare find in the junkyard, and the parts I'm sure would be totally stripped. But if I ever do find one, I'm gonna get these mats out and sell them on eBay. So there are some little corner pieces there that you kind of staple them on, which is funny. More on the other mat than this one. That's looking pretty clean, but didn't get those paints or rust spots off. Now we're into taking out more of the interior. You got to remove the bottom of the seat belt. Very easy, the 14 millimeter, and then just let that thing hang. Mine didn't return very well. I hope these seat belts are okay. I wouldn't want to have to pay to replace them, but you can. There is a place where you can pay to. They'll respin them for you. They put new springs and a new belt material and everything, so they look like new. It costs about $60-$70 per belt to do it, but you could also risk trying to find one at a junkyard or so forth. Much more expensive if you buy them stock. Looking good in here. It might be a good place to put some sound deadening adhesive back material in. I just skipped around to the back because this one actually had these little hooks I had to take out and a bunch of bolts. So 2 of those hooks, and just put the screws back in so I don't lose them. Hopefully I haven't lost any yet. It's going to be a big project, and by the time I get around to putting this all back in, I'm sure I won't remember any of this, so I'll have to go back to my video. There's one there. There's one there. And there is one more. There's one there. Yeah, so these didn't really unscrew down here. The whole thing kind of just popped out. So I'll need to be replacing some of those clips. And there's actually one more. I pull on this and I'm like, oh, it's not coming out. What the heck? Oh, here it is. And what's that little connector? Is that for the, it's not plugged in my car, so I think it's for the subwoofer. You can plug it in right there, I believe. And then in the front, there's a button you can add to the dash. No, that may be for the inverter too. Some of these came with a 120 volt converter. All right, pop this thing out of here. The foam back here is fine. I think I still pulled it off, put some new stuff on there in case there are any mold spores or dampness from before. There's a piece of hard foam there. And it's got some different little clips that allow it to pop in. Just taking a good look here. What? That's weird. What is all this? It's all messed up. Shouldn't be. Look over there. I wonder if there was a mouse in here trying to start a nest back here by using some of the materials. Yep, looks like it. But I don't see any mouse poop, so I don't know. Do mice poop in their own nest? It seems like they would. They poop everywhere else. Alright, now, what about this glue? I really wanted to get it off because it has a fiber stuck to it, and they still stunk. Really bad. This pressure washer, my weak pressure washer, it's safe for washing cars, so you won't ruin your car paint, but not quite strong enough to get glue off, that's for sure. That didn't really work too well, but I gave it a shot. It did get some of the loose fibers off, especially the really thick stuff. But it kind of tricks you because you're not sure. Did that stuff really blow off or wipe off, or did I just make it wet and squeeze it up and make it smaller? Working on this for a little while. You can see, you kind of get some clumps. Here's a good one. Alright, moving on. Time to try some chemicals. Vinegar. This was white vinegar before I soaked rusty parts in it, and it turned into brown vinegar with the rust dust inside. And check this out and see if we can. The wire brush worked really well for just scraping these fibers off, and then you had to pick the fibers out of the clumps out of the wire brush. The vinegar I don't think had much effect on the glue, and as you can see, I didn't let it soak for any good amount of time. But vinegar will kind of evaporate if you leave it out in the sun, so I wanted to get to it quick. Try some acetone. The strongest stuff that I have now. This stuff actually worked, but it still took a lot of scrubbing. I did some scraping. So it did work well, but it was a lot of hand scraping and scrubbing, and it soaks through the rag. You gotta have gloves, and it's expensive stuff. If you're gonna buy, it's like $10 for a little can like that. And it wasn't perfect. It's not like it just melted right off, and I have a lot of area to cover. So yeah, that looks pretty good, but we can do better. Look at that big old clump of booger glue. Gross. Alright, paint thinner. But it's safer. Not as dangerous. And it's white and milky and crusty because it's super old. Looks like the white glue. So I'm going to try this and see how this goes. To the towel wipe method. This is one of Zoe's old shirts. Doesn't fit her anymore. I remember when she would wear it. A little scraping. And this is just the same issue. You would just need tons of this stuff and it'll get all clumpy and mix in with the glue, and the glue spreads around, and it'd just be so much work to do. So yes, I did get a kind of a good clump there, but imagine doing that on like a 5-foot by 7-foot area. Bring out the beast. This worked well in the vehicle itself, but on these mats, it just started to kind of scratch pretty hard into the vinyl or plastic, rubber, whatever it is, some kind of plastic. Now, the heat gun, I set it at about 600 degrees, and I tried a couple different of the tips that came with this Wagner, and I just worked at it for a couple hours. Just went up the lines of glue and wrapped it up, got it cleaned off really well, and there's still a little bit of fibers, but they're melted into the glue, the ones that are left, so I don't think they'll cause an odor, and I think they've been heated up enough to kill off anything that's making an odor. So I'm ready to lay this vinyl back in.